The stars were cold and silent in the deep void between galaxies. Commander Kira stood on the bridge of her ship, watching the endless black space through the crystal windows. Her tall, blue-skinned form moved with grace as she walked between the glowing control panels. The Velthari had traveled the stars for thousands of years, and she had never seen anything that could surprise her. "Commander," called Deho from his station. The tactical officer's voice was calm, but there was something in his tone that made Kira turn around. His 4 eyes were focused on the scanning display, and his long fingers moved quickly over the controls. "What is it?" Kira asked, walking over to him. The other crew members on the bridge looked up from their work. The ship's hum was the only sound as they waited. "We have found something strange," Deho said. He pointed to a spot on his screen where a small red dot was blinking. "There is a ship out there. It is alone, and it is not moving." Kira looked at the display. The red dot was small and dim. Whatever ship it was far away. "Show me more details," she said. Deho pressed some buttons, and the screen changed. Numbers and symbols appeared next to the red dot. Kira read them carefully. The ship was about the size of a small Velthari vessel, but its energy readings were very low. It seemed to be drifting in space without power. "Is it damaged?" Kira asked. "I do not think so," Deho replied. "The energy readings are steady, just very weak. It looks like it is running on basic power only." Baum, the communications officer, turned in her chair. She was younger than the others, with bright green markings on her face that showed she was excited. "Commander, this could be a first contact situation. We have never seen a ship designed like this before." Kira walked back to the center of the bridge. The Velthari Confederation had met many species over the centuries. Most of them were simple and grateful to join their advanced civilization. Some needed gentle guidance to understand the benefits of working together. Very few had ever caused any real problems. "Put the ship on the main screen," Kira ordered. The large display at the front of the bridge flickered and showed the distant vessel. Even from far away, Kira could see that it looked very different from any ship she knew. It was made of metal, with a gray color that seemed dull and plain. The shape was simple too, like someone had taken basic geometric forms and stuck them together. "How primitive," said Wu Jin, the science officer. He had been quiet until now, but seeing the ship made him speak up. "Look at that hull design. It is just flat metal plates welded together. No energy fields, no crystal matrix, nothing advanced at all." Kira nodded. The ship did look very basic. Velthari ships were beautiful, with smooth curves and crystalline hulls that could bend light and energy. This alien vessel looked like something built in a simple workshop with basic tools. "What about weapons?" Kira asked Deho. The tactical officer studied his readings carefully. "I can see some things that might be weapons, but they are very simple. Metal tubes that could fire projectiles, maybe some basic energy systems. Nothing that could harm us." "And their technology level?" Kira looked at Wu Jin. "Very low," the science officer replied quickly. "Their power systems are chemical-based, maybe nuclear at best. Their hull is just metal alloy, probably iron or steel with some other elements. Commander, these beings have barely learned to travel between stars." Baum raised her hand like a student in class. "Commander, should we try to talk to them? They might need help." Kira thought about this. The Confederation's rules were clear about first contact with new species. They should be careful, but also helpful. If these beings were as primitive as they looked, they would need guidance to survive in the dangerous galaxy. "How far away are they?" Kira asked. "About 6 million kilometers," Deho answered. "We could reach them in 2 hours at normal speed." "And their ship status?" "Still drifting. No change in power levels or movement. They might not have seen us yet." Kira made her decision. "Set course for the alien vessel. Reduce speed as we get closer. I want full scans of their ship and any other vessels in the area." The bridge crew began working immediately. The ship's hum changed slightly as they turned toward the unknown vessel. Kira felt the familiar feeling of excitement that came with discovering something new. "Commander," Wu Jin said after a few minutes, "I am getting more detailed readings now. The ship is definitely inhabited. I can detect life signs, about 50 beings. Their biological signatures are strange but stable." "What do they look like?" Baum asked. "Hard to tell from this distance, but they seem to be carbon-based, similar size to us but different body structure. They probably evolved on a planet with similar gravity and atmosphere." Kira walked to the front of the bridge and looked at the approaching alien ship. It was getting larger on the screen, and she could see more details now. The metal hull had many small windows and what looked like simple communication equipment. There were markings on the side in a language she had never seen before. "Any signs of other ships?" she asked Dae-ho. "No, Commander. This vessel appears to be alone. No escorts, no fleet nearby. Just this one ship." That was strange, Kira thought. Most species traveled in groups when they first left their home systems. It was safer and smarter. But maybe these beings were different. Maybe they were explorers who had gotten lost or separated from their people. "Continue scanning," Kira ordered. "I want to know everything about that ship before we make contact." As they got closer, more details became clear. The alien vessel was definitely built for long-distance travel. It had large storage areas and what looked like living quarters. But everything about it seemed so basic and rough compared to Velthari technology. "Look at those power cables," Wu Jin said, pointing to the screen. "They are just running along the outside of the hull. No protection, no elegant design. These beings do not understand proper engineering at all." Dae-ho was studying his tactical display carefully. "Commander, I am seeing something interesting. The ship's weapon systems are very simple, but they are positioned in a strange way." "What do you mean?" "Most of their weapons point in the same direction, toward the front of the ship. It is not a good design for defense, but it would be useful for attacking something directly ahead." Kira frowned. "Are you saying this is a warship?" "No, Commander. The weapons are too small and simple, but the design is unusual for an exploration vessel." Baum looked up from her station. "Maybe they put all their weapons in front because they do not know better. If they are new to space travel, they might not understand proper ship design." That made sense to Kira. The Velthari had learned over many centuries how to build perfect ships. These aliens were probably making mistakes that all young species made. It was actually quite touching in a way. "Commander," Wu Jin announced, "we are now close enough for detailed scans. The ship is definitely inhabited and the beings inside seem to be aware of us. Their communication systems are sending out signals." "What kind of signals?" "Basic mathematical sequences, prime numbers, simple equations. They are trying to show us they are intelligent." Kira smiled. This was exactly what she expected from a primitive but friendly species. They were being careful and polite, trying to prove they were worth talking to. "Baum, prepare a response. Use the same mathematical approach, but add some of our own examples to show our level of advancement." "Yes, Commander." As the ships moved closer together, Kira felt satisfied. Another successful first contact was about to begin. These beings would be grateful for the chance to learn from the Confederation. They would probably beg to join and benefit from Velthari wisdom and technology. The unknown ship was now large, enough to see clearly. It looked even more primitive up close, but there was something about it that Kira could not quite understand. Something that made her feel slightly uncomfortable, though she could not say why. The alien ship was now close enough to see with the naked eye through the bridge windows. Commander Kira watched as the strange metal vessel slowly turned to face them. Its movements were careful and deliberate, like someone trying very hard, not to make any mistakes. "They are responding to our signals," Baum announced from her communication station. The young officer's green face markings were bright with excitement. "They sent back the mathematical sequences we gave them, plus some of their own. Commander, they understand what we are trying to do. Good, Kira said. What else are they sending? Simple pictures and symbols. They are showing us their star, their planet, and what looks like their species. They are bipedal like us, but they only have 2 eyes and no facial markings. On the main screen, a series of basic drawings appeared. Kira could see stick figures that represented the aliens, a round circle for their sun, and a blue and green planet that must be their homeworld. The pictures were crude, but clear. How charming, said Wu Jin with a small laugh. They are like children showing us their artwork. Daeho was still focused on his tactical readings. Commander, their ship is maintaining a respectful distance. No aggressive movements, no weapons charging. They seem peaceful. Of course they are peaceful, Kira replied. Look at their ship. Even if they wanted to fight, what could they do to us? She was right. The Velthari vessel was protected by energy, shields that could stop almost any attack. Their hull was made of crystalline material that was stronger than any metal. Their weapons could destroy planets if needed. This alien ship with its simple metal plates and basic weapons was no threat at all. Commander, Baum said, they are trying to establish voice communication now. Should I connect the channel? Yes, but keep the translator running. We do not know their language yet. The bridge speakers crackled with static, and then a voice came through. It was deep and calm, speaking in sounds that the Velthari had never heard before. The ship's computer worked quickly to analyze the language patterns. Greetings, the voice said after the translator processed the words. We are peaceful explorers from the planet Earth. We mean no harm to you or your people. Kira stepped forward. This is Commander Kira of the Velthari Confederation. We welcome you to this region of space. Are you in need of assistance? There was a pause, and then the alien voice replied. Thank you for your greeting, Commander Kira. We are honored to meet you. Our ship is functioning normally, but we would be very grateful to learn more about your civilization. How polite, Baum whispered to Wu Jin. They recognize that we are more advanced. The conversation continued for several minutes. The aliens, who called themselves humans, explained that they were explorers from a small system many light years away. Their ship was called the Indomitable, and it was commanded by someone named Captain Hyun Woo. We have traveled far from our home, the human captain said. This is only our second time meeting other intelligent life. We are still learning about the galaxy. Only their second contact? Kira asked. How long have your people been traveling? In space? Not very long by your standards, I think. Perhaps 50 of our years for short trips and only 10 years for longer journeys like this one. Wu Jin made a sound of amusement. 10 years of deep space travel? The Confederation has been exploring for 10,000 years, but the humans could not hear him. Captain Hyun Woo continued talking in his calm, respectful voice. Commander Kira, we have many questions about your technology and your civilization, if you would be willing to share some information with us. Kira smiled. This was exactly what she expected. A young species, eager to learn from their betters. Of course, Captain. We are always happy to guide new species who show wisdom and peaceful intentions. We are very grateful, the human replied. Perhaps we could exchange some basic information about our respective technologies and cultures? An excellent idea, Kira agreed. What would you like to know? The questions that followed were exactly what Kira expected from a primitive species meeting an advanced one. The humans asked about faster-than-light travel, energy shields, and weapons technology. They seemed amazed by everything the Velthari told them. Your ships can travel between galaxies? Captain Hyun Woo asked with what sounded like wonder in his voice. Yes, Kira replied proudly. Our vessels can cross vast distances in days rather than years. We have explored thousands of star systems. Incredible. And your weapons can destroy entire planets? If necessary, though we prefer peaceful solutions. Our technology is designed to protect and preserve life. Wise policy, the human said. We have much to learn from you. But the humans also asked their own questions in return. They wanted to know about Confederation territory, how many species belonged to it, and where the major military bases were located. Kira was happy to answer. These humans seemed so grateful and impressed that she wanted to help them understand their place in the galaxy. The Confederation controls this entire region, she explained. We have 12 major species and 47 minor ones. Our fleets patrol all the important trade routes and protect peaceful travelers. How many ships in your fleets? Captain Hyunwoo asked. Thousands, Kira replied. We have the largest and most advanced navy in this part of the galaxy. During the conversation, Daeho was quietly running detailed scans of the human ship. The readings were exactly what he expected from a primitive vessel. Simple metal construction, basic power systems, crude weapons. But there were a few things that seemed slightly odd. Commander, he said quietly, may I speak with you privately for a moment? Kira moved to his station while Baum continued the conversation with the humans. What is it? She asked in a low voice. There are some strange readings from their ship, Daeho said. Nothing dangerous, just unusual. What kind of unusual? Well, their hull is thicker than it needs to be for a ship that size, and some of their power readings do not match what I would expect from the systems we can see. Kira looked at his display. The numbers meant little to her, but Daeho was very good at his job. Could their technology be different from what we think? Maybe. Or maybe they are just not very good at building ships yet. Sometimes new species make things too thick or too heavy because they do not understand the proper techniques. That made sense. Keep monitoring, but do not worry too much. They are clearly no threat to us. Meanwhile, the humans continued asking questions. They seemed particularly interested in the Confederation's military structure and defensive strategies. Captain Hyunwoo asked about patrol routes, response times, and fleet deployment. You must be very concerned about security in your region, he said. Security is important, Kira agreed. But we have been at peace for many years. Most species we encounter are grateful to join our protection. And those who are not grateful? They usually change their minds once they understand the benefits of cooperation, Kira said with confidence. I see. And if they still refuse? Then we help them understand that cooperation is the only sensible choice, Kira replied. The humans were asking very detailed questions, but she assumed they were just trying to understand how galactic politics worked. After an hour of conversation, Captain Hyunwoo made a suggestion. Commander Kira, would it be possible for some of our people to visit your ship? We would love to see your advanced technology for ourselves. Kira considered this. It was a reasonable request from a friendly species. That could be arranged. Would you also be willing to allow some of my crew to visit your vessel? We are very interested in learning about your culture and technology as well. Of course, the human replied immediately. We would be honored to show you our ship, though I am afraid you will find it very primitive compared to your vessel. I am sure we will find it fascinating, Kira said politely. As they made arrangements for the exchange visits, Wu Jin leaned over to Baum. These humans seem very nice, he said. Much better than the last species we found. Remember those arrogant Zephyrians who thought they knew everything? Yes, Baum agreed. These humans are humble and eager to learn. They will fit in well with the Confederation. On the main screen, the human ship continued to drift peacefully nearby. Its crude metal hull and simple design looked almost pitiful next to the elegant curves and crystal surfaces of the Velthari vessel. But there was something about it that Daeho found bothering him, though he could not explain what it was. Commander, he said, their ship's name is interesting. What do you mean? Indomitable. Do you know what that word means in their language? Kira shook her head. According to the translator, it means impossible to defeat or overcome. That is an unusual name for an exploration vessel. Maybe they just chose a strong-sounding name, Kira said. Young species often do that to make themselves feel more confident. But as she looked at the human ship on the screen, Kira felt that same strange feeling she had noticed before. Something about this situation was not quite what it appeared to be. She could not put her finger on it, but there was something about these polite, humble humans that made her slightly uneasy. Still, she pushed the feeling aside. The humans had been nothing but friendly and respectful. Their ship was clearly primitive and harmless. What could possibly go wrong? The shuttle bay doors of the human ship opened slowly, revealing a simple metal chamber inside. Commander Kira watched through her shuttle's window as they approached the docking area. Everything about the human vessel looked basic and crude, just as she expected. "Remember," she told her team as their shuttle settled onto the deck, "these are a primitive people. Be polite, but do not share any sensitive information about our technology." Namsik, her chief science officer, adjusted his scanning equipment. "I doubt they would understand our technology even if we explained it to them," he said with a slight smile. "Their ship looks like something our ancestors might have built 10,000 years ago." Bora, the security chief, checked her weapon. "One more time. It was only a light energy pistol, more for ceremony than protection." These humans had already proven they were peaceful and harmless. "The corridor beyond the shuttle bay is very narrow," she observed. "They did not design this ship for comfort." The shuttle bay finished cycling its atmosphere, and a light above the door turned green. Kira stood up and walked to the exit. "Let us go meet our new friends." The first thing that hit them was the smell. The air inside the human ship was thick and heavy, with the scent of metal and machinery. It was not unpleasant, but it was very different from the clean, recycled atmosphere on Velthari ships. A group of humans was waiting for them near the shuttle. They were indeed bipedal, as the pictures had shown, but seeing them in person was different. They were shorter than the Velthari, with pale skin and small eyes. Their clothes were simple and practical, made of rough fabric. One of them stepped forward and bowed slightly. "Welcome aboard the Indomitable," he said. "I am Tai Jun, the ship's engineer. Captain Hyunwoo sends his greetings, but he is busy, preparing for your captain's visit to our bridge." "Thank you for having us," Kira replied politely. "We are excited to learn about your technology and culture." Taejun smiled, showing small white teeth. "I am afraid our ship will seem very basic to you, but we are proud of what we have accomplished. Please, follow me." As they walked through the corridors, Kira looked around with interest. The walls were made of metal plates bolted together, with exposed pipes and cables running along the ceiling. Everything was functional but ugly, like the builders had no sense of beauty or style. "This is our main corridor," Taejun explained as they walked. "It runs the length of the ship and connects all the major sections." Namsik was running quiet scans with his equipment. "Very thick walls," he murmured to Kira. "Much thicker than they need to be for a ship this size." "Maybe they do not understand." "Proper construction techniques," Kira whispered back. They passed several human crew members in the hallway. Each one stopped what they were doing and bowed politely as the Velthari group walked by. They seemed very respectful and organized for such a primitive people. "How many crew members do you have?" Bora asked. 53 at the moment," Taejun replied, "though our ship can hold more if needed." "And how long have you been traveling?" "This mission has been going for 8 months now. We are exploring this region of space to learn what is out here." They entered what Taejun called the engineering section. It was a large room filled with machinery that hummed and clicked as it worked. Kira could see power generators, life support systems, and what looked like a simple computer core. "This is the heart of our ship," Taejun said proudly. "Everything that keeps us alive and moving comes from this room." Namsik studied the equipment with professional interest. The humans had indeed built everything from basic materials. The power generators were fusion-based, which was advanced enough for a young species. The life support used simple chemical filters and recycling systems. The computer core was electronic rather than quantum-based. Very impressive for your level of technology, Namsik said diplomatically. How do you achieve faster-than-light travel with these power systems? Oh, we do not travel faster than light, Taejun replied casually. This ship uses a different method. We call it a jump drive. It moves the ship from one place to another without actually traveling through the space in between. Namsik paused. That was interesting. Jump technology was not common among primitive species. It required a very good understanding of space-time physics. Could you show us how it works? I am sorry, but that section of the ship is restricted, Taejun said with an apologetic smile. Safety protocols, you understand? The jump drive can be dangerous if someone accidentally touches the wrong controls. Of course, Kira said quickly. She did not want to seem pushy or rude. They continued the tour, visiting the crew quarters, the mess hall, and the navigation center. Everything was simple and functional, but Kira began to notice small details that seemed odd. The crew moved with unusual discipline for explorers. They all wore similar clothes and carried themselves like soldiers rather than scientists. Your people seem very well trained, Bo-Ra observed. We have to be, Tae-jun replied. Space travel is dangerous, especially for a young species like ours. Everyone on this ship has years of training and experience. What kind of training? Namsik asked. Engineering, navigation, survival techniques, basic combat skills. Tae-jun said the last, part as if it was perfectly normal. Combat skills? Kira asked. Why would explorers need combat training? You never know what you might find out here, Tae-jun said with a shrug. We prefer to be prepared for anything. They visited the ship's small medical bay, where a human doctor named Ji-won showed them the basic equipment used to treat injuries and illness. The technology was primitive but effective. What struck Kira was how many trauma treatment tools they had compared to general medical equipment. You seem well prepared for serious injuries, she commented. Space is dangerous, Ji-won replied. Equipment failures, accidents, hostile environments. We have learned to expect the worst and hope for the best. The tour continued to the ship's armory, though Tae-jun was careful to explain that it was mostly for protection against space pirates and dangerous animals on unexplored planets. The weapons inside were simple but solid-looking. Metal projectile guns, basic energy weapons, and what looked like explosive devices. These weapons seem quite advanced for your technology level, Bo-Ra noted. We put a lot of effort into protecting ourselves, Tae-jun said. When you are far from home, you cannot rely on anyone else for help. As they walked back toward the shuttle bay, Namsik continued scanning. His readings were becoming more puzzling. The ship's power output was higher than what the visible systems could account for. There seemed to be additional equipment hidden behind the walls, and some of the metal plates in the corridors were thicker than others, as if they were covering something important. Tae-jun, Namsik said carefully. Your ship's power readings are quite interesting. Are there additional systems we have not seen? Oh, yes, the human replied easily. We have backup systems for everything. Backup power, backup life support, backup computers. When you are exploring unknown space, redundancy is very important. Could we see some of these backup systems? I am sorry, but most of them are in restricted areas. Access to those sections requires special authorization from the captain. Kira was beginning to feel that strange uneasiness again. It seemed like every interesting part of the ship was restricted or off-limits, but she reminded herself that these humans were being very generous by allowing the visit at all. We understand, she said. Security is important on any ship. As they prepared to return to their shuttle, Tae-jun handed each of them a small metal plate. These are gifts from our crew, he said. They show symbols from our home world. Plates were simple but well made, with pictures of Earth's moon and sun etched into the metal. But Namsik noticed that the metal itself was unusual. It was an alloy he did not recognize, much stronger than it appeared. "Thank you for the tour," Kira said as they reached the shuttle bay. "Your ship is very impressive." "We are honored by your visit," Taejun replied with another bow. "I hope the information exchange continues to be beneficial for both our peoples." As their shuttle returned to the Velthari ship, Kira thought about what they had seen. The humans were definitely primitive, but they were also well organized and prepared. Their ship was basic but functional. Their crew was respectful but disciplined. "What did you think?" she asked her team. "Typical young species," Namsik said, but there was uncertainty in his voice. "Though some of their technology choices are interesting, they are very focused on safety and protection," Bo-Ra added. "More than most explorers need to be." "And they have a lot of restricted areas," Namsik continued. "More than I would expect on an exploration vessel." Kira nodded. "But they have been polite and cooperative. Whatever they are hiding, it is probably just embarrassing primitive technology they do not want us to see." Back on the human ship, Taejun watched the Velthari shuttle disappear into the docking bay of the alien vessel. Then he activated his communication device. "Captain," he said quietly, "the inspection is complete. They bought the primitive explorer story completely. They have no idea what this ship really is." "Good work," came Captain Hyunwoo's voice. "How much did they learn?" "Only what we wanted them to learn. All the important systems stayed hidden. They think we are just simple explorers, with basic technology. Excellent. Continue the charade." Commander Kira was reviewing the reports from the human ship visit when the alarm started. The bridge of her vessel filled with a low, urgent sound that made everyone look up from their workstations. "Commander," called Wu Jin from the sensor station, his voice tight with confusion. "I am detecting a massive energy signature approaching our position." Kira hurried to his station. "What kind of energy signature?" "Unknown type. Very large, very powerful. It is still far away, but moving toward us at high speed." Wu Jin's 4 eyes were wide as he studied his displays. "Commander, whatever it is much bigger than anything in our databases." "How far away?" "About 6 hours at current speed." "But Commander, there is something else. I am getting strange readings from the human ship." Kira felt her stomach tighten. "What kind of strange readings?" "I decided to run deeper scans while you were visiting their vessel. The results do not match what we saw with our eyes." On Wu Jin's screen, a detailed analysis of the human ship appeared. Numbers and charts filled the display, showing layer after layer of information about the vessel's construction and capabilities. "Look at this," Wu Jin said, pointing to one section. "The hull is not just thick metal plates. There are multiple layers, with spaces between them. And these spaces are filled with some kind of material I cannot identify." "What does that mean?" "It means their ship is much stronger than it looks. Those metal plates we saw are just the outer shell. Underneath is armor that could probably stop our weapons." Daeho looked up from his tactical station. "Commander, I am seeing the same thing. Their weapon systems are not what they appeared to be either." Kira moved to look at his displays. "Explain." "Those simple metal tubes we thought were basic projectile weapons? They are actually very advanced. The metal is not steel or iron. It is some kind of alloy that can handle massive pressures and temperatures, and the projectiles they fire are not simple bullets. What are they? I am not sure. But the energy signature suggests they could punch through our shields." Namsik joined the conversation, his voice worried. "Commander, I have been analyzing the metal gifts they gave us. The alloy is unlike anything I have seen before. It is incredibly strong, but also very light. This is not primitive technology." Kira stared at the displays showing the real structure of the human ship. Hidden beneath the crude exterior was something far more sophisticated and dangerous than they had imagined. But they were so polite, Bomb said from her communication station. They seemed so grateful to meet us. Maybe they were acting, Bo-Ra said grimly. Maybe the whole thing was a performance. Before anyone could respond, Wu Jin called out again. Commander, the energy signature is changing. It is not one large object. It is multiple objects and they are slowing down. How many objects? 15. No, 20. The count keeps growing. Commander, I think it is a fleet. The bridge fell, silent except for the humming of equipment. Everyone stared at the main screen, which showed the distant points of light that were approaching their position. What kind of fleet? Kira asked quietly. Unknown design, but the energy signatures are massive. Each ship is larger than our vessel, and there are dozens of them. Kira's mind raced. The timing was too perfect to be a coincidence. First contact with a primitive human ship, and now a large fleet arrives in the same system. Get me Captain Hyunwoo immediately. Bomb worked at her controls for a moment. Channel open, Commander. Captain Hyunwoo, Kira said, trying to keep her voice calm. We are detecting a large fleet approaching this system. Do you know anything about this? There was a pause before the human replied. When he spoke, his voice was different, still calm, but with a new edge to it. Yes, Commander Kira. Those are more of my people. More explorers. Another pause. Not exactly. The feeling of unease that had been growing in Kira's stomach suddenly became a cold knot of fear. Captain, I think we need to talk more directly about the situation. I agree, the human said. Would you like me to come to your ship, or would you prefer to visit mine again? I will come to you, Kira decided. She wanted to see the human captain face to face when she asked the questions that were burning in her mind. 20 minutes later, Kira and a small security team docked with the human vessel again, but this time, the atmosphere was different. The human crew members they passed in the corridors no longer bowed politely. They nodded respectfully, but there was something harder in their eyes. Captain Hyunwoo was waiting for them in what he called the conference room. He was a middle-aged human with short gray hair and calm eyes. When he spoke, his voice carried the authority of someone used to being obeyed. Please sit down, he said, gesturing to chairs around a metal table. I think it is time we talked honestly with each other. Kira sat down across from him. Captain, your ship is not what it appears to be, is it? Hyunwoo smiled, but it was not the friendly smile he had used during their first conversation. No, it is not. The Indomitable is what my people call an intelligence-gathering vessel. We use it to study potential threats and opportunities. Threats? Commander, when a species first makes contact with us, we need to understand their capabilities and intentions. The best way to do that is to appear harmless while we gather information. Kira felt angry and embarrassed. You lied to us. Told you we were explorers, Hyunwoo said calmly. That is true. We explore the galaxy looking for other intelligent species. We just did not mention that we also evaluate whether those species might be dangerous to humanity. And what have you concluded about us? That the Velthari Confederation is indeed very powerful and advanced. You have impressive technology and a large military force. You also have a habit of forcing other species to join your confederation, whether they want to or not. Kira started to protest, but Hyunwoo continued. During our conversation, you told me that species who refuse to cooperate with you usually change their minds after you help them understand that cooperation is the only sensible choice. You described your fleets as protecting peaceful travelers, but you also made it clear that resistance to your authority is not tolerated. We bring peace and order to the galaxy, Kira said defensively. I am sure that is how you see it, Hyunwoo replied. But from our perspective, it looks like conquest, disguised as protection. On the table between them, a communication device buzzed. Hyunwoo activated it with a touch. Captain, came a voice from the device. The fleet has arrived in the system. Admiral Seo-jun requests permission to approach. Granted, Hyun-woo said. Tell the Admiral that our guests are aboard and ready for the full briefing. Kira stood. Up quickly. What fleet? What Admiral? Captain, what is really happening here? Commander Kira, Hyun-woo said, also standing. I would like you to meet the real representatives of humanity. The Indomitable is just a scout ship. What is approaching now is a small part of our actual military. Through the conference room's small window, Kira could see lights in the distance. As she watched, the lights grew larger and brighter. Soon, she could make out shapes. Large angular ships that looked nothing like the curved, elegant vessels she was used to seeing. How many ships? She asked quietly. 37 in this group, Hyun-woo replied, plus support vessels. This group? Admiral Seo-jun commands the 5th Battle Fleet. There are 12 such fleets in our Navy, plus specialized units for different purposes. Kira's legs felt weak. How long have humans been traveling in space? Much longer than we told you. We have been exploring this galaxy for over 200 years. We have encountered 43 intelligent species so far. What happened to them? Most of them are still alive and well on their home worlds. We prefer to avoid contact when possible. But sometimes, like with your Confederation, contact becomes necessary. Why necessary? Hyun-woo walked to the window and looked out at the approaching fleet. Because you are expanding into territory that borders ours. Because you force other species to join your Confederation. And because we needed to understand whether humanity could coexist with your empire or whether we would eventually have to fight you. And what have you decided? That decision is above my rank, Hyun-woo said. But I can tell you that Admiral Seo-jun is not known for her patience with aggressive species. As if summoned by his words, the communication device buzzed again. Captain, the Admiral's shuttle is approaching. She will dock in 5 minutes. Kira looked around the conference room with new eyes. The metal table, the simple chairs, the basic equipment. It all looked different now that she knew it was military rather than civilian. Functional, efficient, and built for war rather than exploration. Captain, she said carefully, what does your Admiral want to discuss? The future relationship between humanity and the Velthari Confederation, Hyun-woo replied. Whether that relationship will be peaceful coexistence or something else entirely. Outside the window, the human fleet was now clearly visible. Dozens of massive ships with angular hulls and weapon arrays that made Kira's stomach turn cold. Each ship was larger than the biggest Velthari vessels, and they moved with the precision of a military force that had seen combat. For the first time in her life, Commander Kira found herself looking at a fleet that could threaten the Confederation. And she realized that humanity was not the primitive, grateful species she had expected to guide and protect. The airlock hissed open, and Admiral Seo-jun stepped into the conference room. She was a tall woman with steel-gray hair and eyes that seemed to see everything at once. Her uniform was dark blue with silver markings that meant nothing to Kira, but clearly indicated high rank. Commander Kira, Admiral Seo-jun said with a slight nod. I am Admiral Seo-jun of the Human Space Navy. Thank you for coming aboard our vessel. Kira stood and tried to match the Admiral's calm demeanor. Admiral, I must say, this is not what we expected when we first encountered Captain Hyun-woo's ship. I imagine not, the Admiral replied, taking a seat at the table. The Indomitable is designed to create exactly that impression. Please, sit down. We have much to discuss. As they sat, 2 more humans entered the room. Admiral Seo-jun gestured to them. This is Captain Mi Young, my intelligence officer, and Captain Jae-min, my tactical advisor. Mi Young was a woman with short black hair and quick, intelligent eyes. She carried a data pad and moved like someone who paid attention to every detail. Jae-min was younger, with the lean build of a soldier and scars on his hands that suggested he had seen combat. Commander, Admiral Seo-jun began, Captain Hyun-woo has briefed me on your conversations. I understand you believe the Velthari Confederation is the dominant power in this region of space. We are, Kira said firmly. The Confederation has maintained peace and order for thousands of years. Peace, repeated Captain Mi Young, consulting her datapad. Is that what you call the forced annexation of the Rithari system 3 years ago? Or the blockade of Velos Prime until their government agreed to join your Confederation? Kira felt heat rise in her cheeks. Those worlds benefited from joining us. They are safer and more prosperous now. I am sure they are, Admiral Seojun said mildly. But the question is whether they had a choice in the matter. Of course they had a choice, Kira protested. We do not conquer worlds. We invite them to join us for mutual benefit. Captain Jae-min spoke for the first time. With respect, Commander, when the alternative to joining is economic blockade or military occupation, that is not really a choice. We protect smaller species from the dangers of the galaxy, Kira insisted. Without our guidance, many worlds would fall to pirates, resource depletion, or civil war. And who decides which worlds need protection? Admiral Seo-jun asked. The Confederation Council evaluates each situation and acts for the greater good. The greater good as defined by the Confederation, Mi Young noted. How convenient. Kira was becoming frustrated. Why are we discussing our internal policies? What does humanity want from this encounter? Admiral Seo-jun leaned back in her chair. Commander, humanity has been watching the Confederation's expansion for some time. Your territory now borders ours in 17 star systems. Your fleets patrol trade routes that we also use. The question is whether we can coexist peacefully or whether conflict is inevitable. Conflict? Kira looked around the room at the human officers. Admiral, surely you do not mean to threaten the Confederation. We have thousands of ships and dozens of allied species. Yes, Admiral Seo-jun said calmly. We know. Captain Hyun-woo gathered excellent intelligence during your conversations. 12 major species, 47 minor ones, patrol fleets numbering in the thousands. Very impressive. Then you understand that any conflict would be futile for humanity. Do we? Admiral Seo-jun activated a display on the wall behind her. Let me show you something, Commander. The display showed a star map of the local region. Velthari territory was marked in blue, covering a large area of space, but scattered throughout and around it were red markers indicating human presence. We have been in this galaxy longer than you realized, the Admiral explained. These markers show human colonies, outposts, and patrol bases. What you thought was empty space has actually been under human observation for decades. Kira stared at the map. There were hundreds of red markers, many in systems the Confederation considered uninhabited or unimportant. Impossible, she whispered. Our scouts would have detected your presence. Only if we wanted them to, Captain Jamin said. Human military doctrine emphasizes stealth and reconnaissance. We prefer to watch and learn before making ourselves known. Admiral Seo-jun changed the display. Now it showed detailed schematics of Velthari ships and weapons. During your visit to the Indomitable, our sensors gathered complete technical specifications for your vessel. We now know the exact capabilities of your shields, weapons, and propulsion systems. You scanned our ship? Kira felt violated and foolish. Of course, Mi Young said matter-of-factly. That was the entire point of the encounter. We needed to understand your military capabilities before deciding how to proceed. Proceed with what? Commander, Admiral Seo-jun said seriously, humanity has a policy regarding aggressive expansionist powers. We prefer peaceful coexistence, but we will not allow any force to threaten human colonies or restrict human freedom of movement. The Confederation has no interest in human colonies, Kira said quickly. We did not even know you existed until today. But now you do, the Admiral replied. The question is what you will do with that knowledge. I will report this encounter to the Confederation Council. They will decide our response. And what do you think they will decide? Kira hesitated. She knew the Council well. They would see humanity as either a potential ally to be recruited or a potential threat to be neutralized. Given humanity's apparent technological capabilities and military strength, they would probably choose the latter. I see from your expression that you understand the problem, Admiral Seo-jun said. Your confederation does not tolerate independent powers in its sphere of influence. We could negotiate, Kira suggested. Perhaps establish formal borders, trade agreements, mutual defense pacts. Perhaps, the Admiral agreed. But that would require your council to accept that some species prefer independence to protection. Captain Jamin activated another display. This one showed the human fleet that had arrived in the system. 37 ships in perfect formation, each one bristling with weapons and armor. However, he said, we thought you should understand the consequences if diplomacy fails. Kira studied the ships on the display. They were huge, far larger than Velthari vessels. Their design was purely functional, with no aesthetic considerations at all. They looked like they had been built for one purpose: war. Your ships are impressive, she said carefully, but surely you do not think one fleet could challenge the entire Confederation? One fleet? Admiral Seo-jun smiled coldly. Commander, this is a patrol group. What you see here represents less than 3% of humanity's total naval strength. The number hit Kira like a physical blow. If this massive fleet was only 3%, then humanity possessed a military force larger than anything she had imagined. How is that possible? She asked weakly. You are only one species. One species that has been preparing for galactic expansion for 2 centuries, Mi Young explained. While the Confederation was managing its member worlds, humanity was building ships and training soldiers. Why? Kira asked. Why build such a massive military if you only wanted to be left alone? Because we learned from the history of our own world, Admiral Seo-jun replied. Peace is only possible when aggressive powers know that the cost of war is too high to bear. And you consider the Confederation aggressive? Commander, in the past 50 years, your Confederation has absorbed 12 independent systems. Not through negotiation or mutual agreement, but through economic pressure and military threats. From our perspective, you are an expansionist empire that uses the language of protection and cooperation to disguise conquest. Kira wanted to argue, but the evidence was hard to deny. The Confederation did tend to grow by absorbing smaller, weaker systems. It had always seemed natural and beneficial to her, but she could see how it might look different to an outside observer. What do you want from us? She asked finally. Recognition of human sovereignty in our territory, the Admiral said immediately. Withdrawal of Confederation patrols from our border systems, and a formal agreement that humanity will not be subject to Confederation authority. I cannot make such agreements. I am only a ship commander. Of course, but you can carry our message to your council. You can tell them what you have seen here today. Admiral Seo-jun stood up, and the others followed her lead. Commander, Captain Hyunwoo will escort you back to your ship. You are free to return to Confederation space and report this encounter. What if the Council decides that humanity is a threat that must be eliminated? The Admiral's expression did not change. Then they will discover that humanity is much harder to eliminate than they expect. As they walked back through the corridors of the human ship, Kira noticed details she had missed before. The crew members they passed were not just disciplined. They moved like soldiers who had seen combat. The equipment she had thought was crude was actually built for durability and function over form. Everything about the ship spoke of a military force that was prepared for serious war. Captain Hyunwoo, she said as they reached the shuttle bay, your admiral speaks of peace, but she also seems prepared for war. Admiral Seo-jun has seen what happens when peaceful species are not prepared to defend themselves. Commander Kira stood on the bridge of her ship, staring at the massive human fleet through the main viewing screen. 3 hours had passed since her return from the meeting with Admiral Seo-jun, and her crew was still trying to process what they had learned. "Commander," Daeho said quietly from his tactical station, "I have completed the analysis of their fleet composition." "Report," Kira said, though she dreaded hearing the details. 37 ships total. 12 are what appear to be battleships, each one larger than our heaviest cruisers. 15 are smaller vessels that seem to be destroyers or escort ships, but they still carry more firepower than most of our frontline units. The remaining 10 are support vessels, but even those are heavily armed. And their weapons? Commander, their weapons are unlike anything in our databases. They appear to use a combination of kinetic projectiles, directed energy beams, and some kind of explosive missiles. The projectiles alone could penetrate our shields and hull armor. Wu Jin looked up from his science station. "Commander, I have been analyzing the sensor data from their ships. Their technology is not more advanced than ours, but it is designed completely differently." "Explain." "Where we build systems for efficiency and elegance, they build for durability and raw power. Their armor is much thicker than ours. Their weapon systems have multiple redundancies. Everything on their ship seems designed to keep fighting even after taking massive damage." Bomb, still at her communication station, had been unusually quiet since the meeting. "Commander," she said hesitantly, "they have been sending messages to each other using encrypted channels. I cannot break the encryption, but the volume of communication suggests they are coordinating something." Before Kira could respond, her communication panel lit up with an incoming message from the human fleet. Admiral Seo Jun's voice filled the bridge. "Commander Kira, this is Admiral Seo Jun. I wanted to inform you that additional human vessels are approaching this system. They should arrive within the hour." Kira felt her stomach drop. "Additional vessels? How many?" "Not many. Just a small escort group that was in the area. Perhaps another 20 ships. 20 more ships." Kira closed her eyes briefly. "Admiral, may I ask what these additional ships are intended to accomplish?" "Nothing threatening, Commander. Standard naval procedure requires adequate escort when meeting potentially hostile forces. These are simply precautionary measures." "Potentially hostile forces?" Kira's voice rose slightly. "Admiral, we have shown no hostility toward your people." "Not yet," the Admiral agreed. "But we have learned to be prepared for all possibilities." The communication ended, leaving Kira's bridge in tense silence. She looked around at her crew, seeing her own fears reflected in their faces. "Commander," Namsik said from his station, "I have been thinking about their technology. The metal alloy they gave us as gifts, their ship construction, their weapon, designs. It all suggests a species that has spent generations preparing for war." "What do you mean?" "Most species develop space technology for exploration, trade, or scientific research. Combat capability is usually secondary, but humans seem to have developed everything with warfare as the primary consideration." Daeho nodded grimly. "It would explain why their ships are so heavily armed and armored. They did not evolve into a military force. They started as one." The alert tone sounded again, and Wu Jin called out, "Commander, I am detecting the approach of more human vessels, 22 ships, just as the Admiral said." On the main screen, new points of light appeared in the distance. As they grew closer, Kira could see that these ships were different from the first group. Some were even larger, with massive weapon arrays that looked capable of destroying planets. "Commander," Daeho said, his voice tight with controlled fear, "one of those ships is reading as a dreadnought-class vessel. It is 3 times the size of our heaviest battleship." "What kind of species builds ships like that?" Bora asked quietly. "A species that expects to fight wars against entire civilizations," Namsik replied. The communication panel activated again. This time it was Captain Hyun Woo from the Indomitable. "Commander Kira, Captain Dong Hyun of the battleship Annihilator, would like to speak with you. He has some information that might help you understand humanity's position in this situation." Put him through, Kira said, though she was not sure she wanted to hear what this new captain had to say. A new voice came through the speakers, deeper and harder than the others she had heard. Commander Kira, this is Captain Dong Hyun. I commanded human forces during the Kethmoran conflict. I do not know that conflict, Kira replied. The Kethmoran were a species similar to your confederation. They controlled a large empire and believed that all other species should be grateful to join them for protection and guidance. They made the mistake of trying to force human colonies into their empire. What happened? The Kethmoran Empire no longer exists, Captain Dong Hyun said simply. Their homeworld is uninhabited. Their fleets are debris. Their colonies have been freed to govern themselves. The bridge fell silent. Kira felt a chill run down her spine. You destroyed an entire civilization? We gave them the same choice we are giving you now. They chose war instead of coexistence. That choice had consequences. How many ships did they have? At the height of their power? Approximately 8,000 vessels across their entire empire. Kira's legs felt weak. The Kethmoran had possessed a larger fleet than the Confederation, and humanity had destroyed them completely. Commander, Captain Dong Hyun continued, I want you to understand something important. This fleet you see here is not our main force. This is not even one of our numbered fleets. This is a border patrol group that happened to be in the area. Then what is your main force? The First Fleet alone has over 1,500 ships. There are 12 numbered fleets, plus specialized task forces and planetary defense groups. In total, humanity can field approximately 30,000 combat vessels. The number was so large that Kira's mind refused to process it at first. 30,000 ships. The entire Confederation Navy had fewer than 5,000 vessels. That is impossible, she whispered. Commander, humanity has been building ships for 200 years. We have industrial capacity on over 300 worlds. War is not something we stumble into unprepared. Another voice joined the conversation. A woman who introduced herself as Yu Jin, weapons specialist aboard the Annihilator. Commander Kira, I have been analyzing your ship's defensive capabilities. Your shields are impressive, but they would not stop our primary weapons. Your armor is elegant, but too thin to matter against kinetic bombardment. In a direct engagement, your vessel would be destroyed in approximately 43 seconds. You have calculated how to destroy our ship? Kira asked, horrified. We calculate how to destroy every ship we encounter, Yu Jin replied matter-of-factly. It is standard procedure. Your vessel, while advanced, is built for exploration and patrol duties. It was never intended to fight a real warship. What about our whole fleet? Our allies? Commander, Captain Dong Hyun said patiently, the Confederation has never fought a peer opponent. You have spent centuries dealing with species that were smaller and weaker than you. You have no experience with total war against an equal or superior force. And you do? Yes. Humanity has been fighting for survival since before we reached the stars. We know war, Commander. We know it better than we know peace. On the bridge, Kira's crew had stopped working entirely. They stood frozen at their stations, staring at the communication panel as if it might bite them. The casual way the humans discussed destroying civilizations and calculating kill times was more terrifying than any threat could have been. Commander, came Admiral Seo Jun's voice again. I hope this conversation has been educational. I want you to return to your council with a clear understanding of the choice they face. What choice? Kira asked weakly. Accept that humanity will remain independent or discover what happened to the Kethmoran Empire. Those are the only two options we will consider. And if we choose to leave you alone, what guarantee do we have that you will not attack us? You have our word that humanity has no interest in conquering or controlling other species. We want to be left alone to govern ourselves. But if anyone tries to force us into submission, they will face the full strength of the human space navy. How do we know you are telling the truth about your fleet size? This could all be an elaborate bluff. Commander, Admiral Seojun said, with what sounded like amusement. You are welcome to test that theory. But I suggest you ask your council if they are prepared to bet the existence of the Confederation on the possibility that we are lying. The communication ended, leaving Kira and her crew in stunned silence. Around them, the human fleet maintained its perfect formation, a display of military precision that spoke of centuries of experience and preparation. Commander, Deho said finally, what are your orders? Kira looked at the human ships on the screen. 59 vessels that could probably destroy the entire Confederation fleet without breaking formation. And this was supposedly a minor patrol. Group. Set course for Confederation space, she said quietly. Maximum speed. Yes, Commander. As her ship turned away from the human fleet, Kira tried to imagine how she would explain this encounter to the Council.